Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about Godzilla, Kong, A New Empire because I just finally got around to watching it in theaters. I'm really excited about it. Let's dive into this.
What? Oh, it's Watchlist Movie Review.
Yeah, I didn't... this is a Wednesday, and this video is probably part of my Wednesday watch list series because I'm watching all the Monarch movies as a part of my watch list Wednesday series. But also, this movie is currently out in theaters, so I didn't know which graphic to use, so I did both. Okay, don't judge me. I want zero judgment. But yeah, unlike my usual watch list Wednesday videos, I will come on here, talk about the movie that I'm going to go watch, and then go watch it. I already watched it, so it's just going to be a normal movie review video type thing, basically. So let's dive into this. Okay, so as per usual, I'm going to issue a spoiler warning. I don't think that this movie is really one that could possibly be spoiled to you. Nothing really insane happens in it. But that being said, if you haven't seen the movie yet and you want to go watch it before you're watching this review, you should go watch it before watching this review, okay? Okay, that being said, anything and everything will be spoiled now. Okay, so to dive right into this, I do want to go ahead and say, I've been watching all these Monarch movies. I've been having a good time with it. It's a really good time just watching these giant monsters beat the crap out of each other, and there not really being any consequences to their actions. It's fun. This is a good shut your brain off and just enjoy the movie type situation. And this one, I think it's doing too much. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know. I think that a lot of people are going to disagree with me because a lot of people out there are the kind who, like, this is exactly what they wanted. They just want to see two monsters beating each other up the entire time. I think that there was a lot going on in this movie. I think that I was trying to understand what was going on in this movie, and I think that that was a problem. I think that me actively trying to understand what's going on in the movie ruined my viewing experience because what the hell... So for one, the movie starts off like how Godzilla versus Kong started off with, Kong. He's now the main character a little bit. It's showing his new life. He's enjoying Hollow Earth, where he's kind of like the king. He's going around fighting a bunch of little guys. He's now gained intelligence a lot, so now instead of just doing whatever fun little shenanigans he was doing in the first movie, just trying to live his normal life, instead he is going around trapping certain monsters, creating like elaborate little things so that he can cause avalanches and kill entire hordes of animals. And it's cool. It shows that he's gained a lot of high intellect in the last couple of years since we've seen him, and he's grown a lot. But one thing, and I'm going to go ahead and complain about this because I know it's something I'm going to want to complain about later. This movie has the same problem that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania had last year. I'm a huge fan of Marvel, and I will always love Marvel and always try to defend them as much as possible. But Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania had a really bad problem with there being this character who their entire gimmick is size-related, and putting them in a world that is unfamiliar where we have no idea how big something is or is not. And, this movie kind of messes around with that a lot as well, because for the most part, Kong looks exactly the same as Kong has in every single movie we've seen Kong in, and because he is only in Hollow Earth for the majority of this movie, it's really hard to get a general idea of how big he really is in this. I think that Wikipedia says he's about 300 feet tall. He looks like just a regular-sized monkey, to be honest, for the majority of the movie. And it's really weird because you're going to these movies to see, like, oh my god, this guy's super duper gigantic and stuff like that. But I feel like in this movie particularly, we get like no scenes with the humans actually next to the kaiju monsters. So it's so hard to tell how huge they are. And with Kong especially, there's moments where he's interacting with the little girl who's speaking to him in sign language and stuff like that, where they're standing up on some hill, he's down on the ground, and, like, it's interpreted that, they're making contact with each other because they can see each other, but, like, we never see shots of them actually, like, on screen at the same time, and I know that that's such a nitpicky thing, but it makes it so much harder to take it, like, realistically that this thing is gigantic, because she's able to do these tiny signs to this thing that's 300 feet tall, and he's able to do these signs back, and it's, like, I don't know. It hurts my brain to think about this movie too much. So, that being said, let's talk about some of the other things here. Some shout-outs. I do want to go ahead and say this. I feel like they were smart with all of the human characters that they decided to keep in this movie because Dan Stevens in this is a blast. I think that it's really interesting that they just throw in this new character and like introduce a lot of lore to him, have him be this guy who apparently is like a dentist slash doctor for kaiju monsters. Don't even know how you get the experience to do that job, but that's a job that you can do in this universe now. Pretty cool. And then we have, the lady who now runs Monarch, basically. She's basically the person who runs everything, and her daughter, which I think they have a really great bond in this movie, and I think that they have some actually like really good emotional sequences, which is weird because for the most part this movie feels so void and like without emotions, and then you get like a couple of heartfelt moments at the end of the movie, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's interesting. And then obviously we got Brian Tyree Henry. Did I say his name right? He's got 3 first names. And I think I might have mentioned it. Is it Tyree Brian Henry? I'm butchering it. We're going to put his name up on the screen. But his performance in this, once again, really solid. I like the fact that he's just like a fun guy who really loves uncovering mysteries and kind of like sticking it to the man on his little podcast. And I think it's funny how like well they actually like showcase somebody who would have a podcast like this, because he is kind of like off his rocker a lot. And I think that he's fun in this movie because he does a good job of bringing somebody who's very normal and has actual human reactions to the things that are going on. Like whenever we watch, every time they have a movie like this, they have to have a random character who's there just so that they could be killed off. Whenever that guy dies, he's the only one who really has a reaction to it at all. Like he's the only one who's like, are we not going to like, we're just going to ignore the fact that this guy just got eaten by a tree, and all of them don't care. And I like that we are able to have at least that one character here who is human, if that makes sense. But that being said, just kind of wanted to touch on the human characters. I feel like they don't have a whole lot to do in this story. Dan Stevens, though, is pretty great. He is pretty funny. He has a lot of like really weird, quick little needle drops, and I feel like almost all of them feel very out of place for this movie. I think that the first one is really cool whenever he's doing his little dentist stuff and we first see him. And then the second time whenever he's putting on the power glove, that one works as well. And I think that those are the only 2 that do. And I think that he does it like 3 separate times in the movie. He'll play some random needle drops. And it's cool. I get that they're trying to share that this character is somebody who's eccentric and he loves blasting music whenever he's doing little missions and stuff like that. But it felt odd, if that makes sense. But yeah, that being said, had fun with the human characters. Now to talk about the kaiju, there was a lot. For one, a lot of weird little dinosaur dudes in Hollow Earth. Very interesting. Mothra is back. She's incredibly bright, and I do think that she looks beautiful. I'm gonna be honest, if I have to say which kaiju monster I think looks the best, Mothra looked incredible in every sequence we saw her in, and I think that was really, really impressive. That was fun. And Godzilla looks as good as ever. I think that Kong is one of the only ones I had problems with. Like every once in a while, he just did not look great. I think that for the most part, the Scar King also did not look very good. And the weird little lizard dude that he was with looked pretty good for the most part, actually. So I really enjoyed those. Baby Kong, he had a really big issue with the scaling as well, because there were a lot of times where it's like when they're on Hollow Earth, he is way smaller than Kong. He's almost at like Kong's knee level. And then there will be other moments where he's like not necessarily almost the same height as Kong, but he looks like he's just like half his height. But then there's other parts where he's literally at his knees, and it's like, okay. And then there's also parts where Kong grabs him and uses him as a weapon, and he looks even smaller. So I'm like trying to get a grasp of how big this guy is supposed to be, and I could not for the life of me figure it out at all. So that stuff was weird. But yeah, overall the designs of everything looked pretty good. Like I said, Scar King is the only one where I'm like, there's a couple of moments his CGI looks rough. But the fight sequences were fun. I don't think any of these are going to be particularly memorable. Like, I don't think any of these fight scenes really did anything that interesting or different with the characters. We do have the fun moment that was showed in the trailer where Scar King, like, rips off half of a building and throws it at Kong, and he just, like, punches it. That's pretty cool, but I feel like that's one of the only cool action sequences in the entire movie. Yeah, I was pretty underwhelmed with this movie. I think that for the most part, if you're into like WWE, you'll probably enjoy this because you basically get to watch Kong and Godzilla do a bunch of WWE moves on other kaiju monsters. But for the most part, I think that I would rather have like Godzilla versus Kong was like mostly like humans, and then we had like 3 really solid kaiju fights. I think I would prefer that to this one, where it felt like the entire movie they were just trying to do kaiju and kaiju and kaiju, and there's no moments where the kaiju fights really live up to any of those 3 big fights, and I feel like part of it's because they're having to stretch a budget. So overall, wasn't a huge fan of this movie, wasn't insanely disappointed, but I do think I am very just whelmed. Like, I'm not overwhelmed or underwhelmed, it's just whelmed. Like, this could have been significantly better, but it also could have been significantly worse. I don't know where they're going with this series, but I hope that they kind of try to make it a little bit more like the first Godzilla movie, the first Kong Skull Island movie. Right now, they're in a really weird place where it feels like a cartoon in live action. And I'm not fully against it, but I also don't really like it because they keep trying to like keep in the human stuff and keep it very like real and organic, and it doesn't feel right. So yeah, overall, if I was to give this movie a score on a scale of 1 to 100, I probably would be giving this one like a 67, give or take. Like I said, I wasn't a really big fan of this. There were a couple of moments that were great. There were definitely a couple of laugh out loud moments, but overall, I was not that big of a fan. So yeah, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow, bow, bow.
Back at it again, but that's a relevant flow. So smooth, they calling me Mr. Elegant. Like an elephant, I got a long nose. Like a president, I've got a few hoes. Swift with a stutter, I'm smooth like butter. Don't see it coming when I slip undercover. Like a big dog, but I don't bite. I'm still a big broad, I'd win that fight. Come match you and I knock out your lights.